Thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you don't know me, I'm Lavinia Roberts, a Murphy Fellow and Assistant Professor of Theater. On behalf of the Hendricks Department of Theater and Dance and the Hendricks Murphy Foundation, it is my great pleasure to introduce the Hendricks Murphy visiting playwright, Dr. Theresa Rebeck. I could spend the evening presenting Theresa Rebeck's many professional accolades, being Broadway's most produced female playwright of our time. Awards such as the William Inge New Voices Playwriting Award, the Penn Laura Pels Foundation Award, a Lilly Award, and others. I could discuss her lasting impact on the medium of theater as a director and playwright, or her many successes in other genres, such as her published work as a novelist, or her many accomplishments as a screenwriter, including the television series Smash, which she created. I could discuss her current projects, such as a musical adaptation of Working Girl with music and lyrics by Cyndi Lauper. Instead, I want to share my own experience with Theresa Rebeck's work. As a young, aspiring playwright, I had the privilege of attending the Broadway production of Rebeck's play Seminar, starring Alan Rickman. If you are unfamiliar with the play, it's set in New York City. 4 aspiring young novelists partake in a private writing classes with a recklessly brilliant and unorthodox instructor, Leonard. To quote from the play, "Everyone thinks it's so cool and fun to be mean to artists. But if we weren't here, there would be nothing but anarchy and immorality and chaos. We are the soul of the culture, and people can just be nice to us once in a while." The play exemplified Theresa Rebeck's work. It is unrelentingly funny, unapologetically truthful, fearless, insightful, titillating, engaging, and provocative. And the play continues to provoke. Over this past week, Hendricks students have passionately debated and discussed the play. On behalf of my students and myself, I am thrilled that Theresa Rebeck is here to share her expertise. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Theresa Rebeck.
Thank you, Lavinia. Sometimes when I speak, I wing it a little bit because I have found over time that when I write everything down, it flattens a little bit, which is similar to my writing, my experience as a writer, that if you think everything through before you write it, like with treatments and outlines. Okay, and for young writers, I urge you not to listen to this part of it, because when you're younger, you do need to have a little bit more structure on what you're doing. But at this point, I sort of know where I'm starting, and I have a vague idea of where the play is going. And other than that, I leave things kind of to the muses. So forgive me if it doesn't work out tonight. But I wanted to read some monologues and then talk about the use of the monologue in a play, and how a monologue expresses, is an expression not just of character, but of the forces that are pressuring a character. Because monologues, you can't force a character to explode into a lot of language unless you put a lot of pressure on them. Some characters will do that just because they talk too much in general or because they're drunk. But my feeling is that when you really put psychological pressure on your characters, you never know what they're going to say. And then when they start talking, sometimes they don't stop. And that becomes for me a real expression of how character and politics come together theatrically. I actually don't write agitprop theater. I don't write political theater in the sort of traditional sense of the politics are all in the plot. For me, the politics are in the world that my characters inhabit, because to my mind, theater is really about people, as more so than it is even about the ideas that plays are so wonderful at expressing. So the first monologue I'm going to read you is from this play, The Understudy. It's one of my favorite plays that I wrote. And it starts, I'll just give you a little bit of setup. It starts with, because I'm just going to read the very first monologue in the play. And Harry is a character who runs up to the stage, and he has a gun, okay? And then in the back, it starts with a gunshot off stage. Harry runs onto the stage, waving a gun around, looking over his shoulder wildly. He suddenly points it at a member of the audience. After a moment, here's Harry's monologue. "Oh, it's not real. For heaven's sake." He waves the gun around and fires it. It just clicks. "But it looks real." He puts it in the back of his pants. "This is the new cool place to put your gun. Store a weapon." "Ow, it's cold." "Hello?" And then he looks up to "Hello? Is anybody up there? I went to this movie last week. It was pretty good, but it wasn't." Now he just talks to the audience. "I went to this movie last week. It was pretty good, but it wasn't, there were guns and such. It was okay. Not, by any stretch of the imagination, was it? Not that any of them are anymore. It's not that I'm bitter. People look at you, they say, oh, he's an actor who's not so he must be kind of bitter. And I am bitter. But that doesn't mean that movies don't suck, because they do, right? They are largely unwatchable, except for maybe 3 movies a year that are fantastic, even though no one much gets to go see them, and they really don't finally do a whole lot more than make the rest of us feel like total failures, because we can't even get cast in the utter bullshit movies that everyone else makes. Not that I consider myself a failure. That's something other people have an issue with. I'm fine with where I am. I really am. So I went to this movie last week. It was pretty typically, there was an airplane and guns and explosions and people screaming, and the plane crashes. Get down, get down. And the whole movie was like that. The dialogue was it was utter, and I've heard that people get paid millions, just millions, to write things like, get in the truck. And they're considered really successful, successful screenwriters, because get down, get down. I'm not bitter. Come in. No, of course. He's acting now, practicing. No, of course. I'm surprised to see you. I'm surprised to see you at this strange hour. Not at all. I'm simply surprised to see you at this strange hour. Anyway, I went to this movie, and some people would say that, the fact that millions of dollars were spent in gas and electricity wasted so we could watch a plane crash. Because some people like that. They think that's fun. And we live in a free market economy. We have that so-called invisible hand of the marketplace. It's actually steering things, like the hand of fate, or the hand of God. And anyway, the free market version of this equation steers things toward the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And that's why I have this movie that I saw. Have a seat. This is quite an honor. No, that's too desperate. You're not desperate. It's just weird that he's here. This is quite an honor. Have a seat, please. This is quite an honor. Anyway, the thing is, and I say this about bitterness, I auditioned for that movie. I did. I went in for an audition, and I'm a trained actor. And I yelled, get down, get down. And I was pretty good. I really gave a fantastic reading of that and other really timeless bits of dialogue. And, I didn't get the part, which is fine. I truly have better things to do with my life. It's not but the fact is, the hilarious fact is, he starred in that movie. I couldn't even get a 3-line part, and he starred in it. And as long as he's not here anyway, let me just share the secret. He is talent-free. Not that you don't want to be harsh to a fellow actor, the community. Then again, it's not that, okay, I'm a little bitter. But that doesn't change facts that his lack of talent grants him a reality that has been denied other members of this community is real, because everyone acts like he is real. real in a way that we are not, when the opposite is the case. I mean, real in a way, wait, what is reality? You have to ask yourself. I ask myself that all the time. I mean, I'm not bitter, but when he gets to be the real one, I think we're all allowed a little moment of private rage or the occasional fantasy with a gun. That's the end of his monologue. Because then Jake enters, the guy he's talking about. And the play goes on from there. I don't usually start plays with monologues because you guys were very generous to laugh at my my stilted readings. But it's hard for people to get on a ride that fast. And when you're asking them to just go with this, you don't know anything about what's going on. But the play kind of adds up into a Kafkaesque vision of the world, because he and Jake are both actors who are in this two-person undiscovered masterpiece by Kafka. And then there's also a stage manager, and then another stage manager who's in the booth and who is stoned. And so there's a total reckless incoherence to what's happening in the play that they're trying to do a rehearsal for. And they can't ever get through a scene, and over time they come to respect each other and celebrate the insanity of a life in the arts. Which is what it turns out a lot of my plays are about, the insanity of a life in the arts. And so the next play that I want to read a little bit from is Seminar, which I understand some of you guys have read and discussed. Sorry, I just want to find where I am. I put it in the wrong spot. Oh, maybe I didn't. Okay. This is in the middle of the play, and I'm going to read you a little bit of the dialogue that builds up to Leonard's monologue in this spot, and then a later monologue, because the play is really about, when I started writing this play, I actually was like, this is what I want to do. I want to write a play about 4 20-somethings who want to be writers, and then there's one 50-something writing teacher who just tortures them. And I was like, that would be really funny. Watching this guy just make mincemeat out of, just hitting him on the head. And it did turn out to be funny. It's really mean, but it's funny. And Alan Rickman played Leonard, and other brilliant younger actors played the parts. Okay? So this is the beginning of scene 5, where Leonard is. So Leonard, it's like a lot of people thought I was writing about Gordon Lish, who frankly I've never met. But I did know about his monologue, his classes. And this is a very, very famous editor/writer who would have these private classes that cost $5,000, and there were a lot of people in them, 25, and they'd shove everybody into somebody's apartment, and then he would look at somebody's work and just rip it to shreds, and everybody couldn't get enough of this. And then also he started sleeping with the women and just torturing everybody. But he was apparently quite brilliant. And I thought, well, I worked for David Milch. Do you guys know who David Milch is? He ran NYPD Blue, and he's one of these figures in Hollywood who everyone's like, David's such a genius. But it's the same story, where he just tortures everybody. And sometimes you get something good out of him, but mostly you just get beat, the shit kicked out of you. So this is actually more about my situation with him, and I became very interested in that, because I worked for that guy for 3 years, and I ended up feeling like, you got to get out of here now, or you'll never get his hand out of your brain. And I learned a lot from him, and I also learned to walk away from that when it gets to be too much. So that's what the play is kind of about. So Leonard is looking at some pages, all 4, sit and watch him. Leonard paces. He finishes reading a page, drops it to the ground. He reads another page, paces, drops it to the ground. He starts to read another page. It is excruciating. Finally, he glances through the other pages, looks up at Douglas. Leonard, your uncle said you were talented. Douglas, oh, thank you. That's really nice of you to say. Leonard, I didn't say you were talented. I said your uncle said you were talented. I didn't say you weren't talented. This is not without talent. This section about the top of the girl's dresser, the two bottles of fingernail polish standing next to each other like lost and terrified soldiers, that's not bad. It's nice that you've already referenced the peeling and the red polish on her toes, so we get the allusion to blood without having it stated explicitly. It's all right. Good even. Your description of the butterfly poster over the bed is first rate. It's not the pedestrian interpretation one might be tempted to make about teenage girls and butterflies. There was a time when tribal peoples had carved butterflies into stone, had reckoned them messengers from the gods. Those tribal peoples are fantastic, the way you drop them in. It's a beautiful surprise. You paint her bedroom well. Douglas, thank you. Martin. Okay, Martin's a problem at this point in the play. He's mad. Wow. Martin, wow, a teenage girl's bedroom. Wow. Leonard, you don't like it? Martin, no, it's terrific. Well done. Leonard, no, go ahead. Martin, I like it. I'm a little confused about the relevance factor. Just 2 weeks ago, you told us all we should be writing about dying beggars in the Sudan. So I'm not without confusion now how this does that, but it's not without talent. That's what I always said about Douglas. He's not without talent. Leonard, don't be such a pussy. Martin, a pussy. Leonard, you don't think you're being a pussy? Martin, do you think I'm being a pussy? Izzy, Martin, what? Do you like it? Do you like it? Izzy, I do, yeah, I like it a lot. Martin, do you think I'm being a pussy? Kate, I think it's a pretty good story too. It's good, Douglas. Martin, oh, it's a pretty good story and I'm a pussy. That's great. I thought this was a writing seminar where we discussed writing with something approaching intellectual sophistication. Pretty good story and I'm a pussy. We're ascending the heights here. Leonard, I think the word pussy is pretty intellectually sophisticated. It communicates pretty precisely the meaning I'm looking for. Martin, my point is, Leonard, I know your point. You don't like me calling you a pussy, even though you're acting like a pussy, because you're here to discuss the writing. You guys are all paying me a lot of money because you think I can help you understand the craft of writing better, so that you can go off and have successful so-called careers as writers of fiction, which is more or less my specialty. There's something else your problem. He's standing behind Izzy. Oh yeah, he started to have a little fling with Izzy, who Martin's got a crush on. Martin. No, that's pretty much my problem. I'm here to talk about writing. I'd like to do that without the word pussy being involved, and that's a big problem for you. Leonard. No, I think I can handle that. Martin, thank you. Leonard, so why don't you tell us what you think about the story? Since you want to stay focused on the writing and you don't think you're a pussy, I think we'd all like to hear what you have to say about today's writing specimen, offered up to us with friendly, indeed almost dog-like equanimity by our not untalented friend, Douglas. Douglas, your uncle mentioned that the New Yorker is seriously looking at one of your stories. Is this the one? Douglas, yeah, it is actually. Leonard, why don't you tell us what you think about that, Martin? Douglas, look. Leonard, you stay out of this. Come on, Martin. Tell your fellow writer, the one person in the room who is in fact succeeding at something you are failing at, tell him what you think. And tell the truth. Come on. Martin, all right. Izzy, interrupting. Well, I love it. Seriously, the language is amazing, Douglas. I just learned a ton from it, and frankly, I know that Martin thinks so too. He told me last week. We both read your other story, the one in Tin House, and Martin flipped. Leonard, did he? Izzy, yes, he did. He thinks Douglas is a thrilling writer. That's what he told me, at least. Martin, yeah, I like Douglas's work a lot. Kate, I like it too, Douglas. It's good. Douglas, thanks, Izzy. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Martin. They all sit in silence for a moment. Leonard laughs, shakes his head. You guys are hilarious. All right, good for you, Martin, that Izzy managed to tell us all how much you liked Douglas's writing before you told him it sucked. because that would have been awkward. Martin, it doesn't suck, it's good. Leonard, yeah, it is good. There's a level of competence here that is almost chilling in its thoroughness. This is the perfect rendition of a New Yorker story. Capable, graceful in places, a detached tone of perplexed intelligence. You have a relatively famous last name. In literary circles, not too famous, but famous enough. It's not a home run, but it's a standing double. He hands the story back to Douglas. Douglas, well, I'd really like to hear some criticism. Leonard, oh, you'd like that? Douglas, I would. I'd love to build on what's here, see if I can mine the interiority of the Stephanie character especially. I feel like there's a few places where the complexity of her need for emotional distance is maybe not fully rendered. Leonard, yeah, that's the problem with emotionally distant characters. It's hard to write about them because who gives a shit finally about somebody who's got no interior life? Douglas, no, I don't think she has no interior life. That's not... Leonard, all right, I'm going to level with you. I'm going to give you some advice here that I think is going to be really totally like on the money useful to you. Douglas, great. Leonard, it's going to sound a little rough, but you expect that, yeah? I mean, you're not going to turn into a big baby about the truth unlike some other people? Douglas, no, of course not. Leonard, good, because there is something in your writing. It's around the tonal perfection. There's a kind of, it's a little like a whore. Douglas, the character of Stephanie? No, not the character, you. The way you talk about writing is kind of stupid. Plus, the way you write is so unimaginative and the way it attacks the problem you set yourself. I mean, it's skillful, but whorish. It's like the way you play your name off, your connections. You're a name dropper, you're a whore. And that's in the writing. It's perfect in a kind of whorish way. I don't know why you're wasting your time in fiction. I mean, you're good at it. I'm not saying you're not. Douglas. No. Leonard, it's just, if you can do this, why not make a ton of money doing this? You're capable. You've got a few publications under your belt. Famous last name. They love that shit in Hollywood. You could make a fuckload of money. Or you could spend the rest of your life writing fiction that nobody reads or respects, even if they read it. Because you're talented, like I said, but you're never going to be great. And there are a lot of people who are never going to be great. Most fiction writers just evaporate, really. But that's going to be a problem for you because of your kind of whorish attitude to the whole thing. The name dropping, and of course, the name. It will, in fact, be particularly degrading and even humiliating to be ignored to the degree you will be ignored. Because at the same time, you'll be allowed in because of the name. You'll be invited to cocktail parties. You'll get to go to exclusive events at the public library. But you will never be on a panel because too many people who know shit will know. It's hollow. The work is hollow. And think about Hollywood. Thank you, Leonard. Okay. That's Leonard dissecting one. He dissects them all. Until he gets to Martin, who is the problem child of the group. And this is where Leonard finally reads something that Martin has written, because Martin's been evading bringing something in. He's terrified of showing this guy, who would be, showing this guy his work. And he finally brings something in and tells Martin that he's really pretty good. And it makes Martin angry. So this is the lead into Leonard's big speech, okay? He doesn't know, this is Martin, he doesn't know anything. Why should I let him? Why shouldn't any of us? Hasn't it occurred to any of you that he's so mean to us because he's over? He can't do it anymore if he ever could. And it's just power. It's the only power he has anymore to destroy. And the thing he wants to destroy is young writers. It's twisted. And we're so desperate. It's pathetic, actually. We're so desperate that we're just sitting here letting him destroy our hope and our curiosity and our talent and our dreams. And why? It's nothing to him. He's God. Plus, he's done so many drugs, he can't even remember what he's read from one instance to the next. Plus, he's unethical, which I know is a joke to even bring that up. That's how low ethics have fallen, but I don't care. He's unethical. And I had a bad teacher, and now I'm supposed to what? Jump up and down for joy because he said, oh, there's an unmistakable. And Leonard says, careful, that bit might be true. Martin, nothing you say is true. You're a plagiarist. You're just a fucking plagiarist. Leonard. Yeah, okay. You probably never told off your own father, so you definitely needed to get that off your chest. Martin, fuck you. Leonard, and I'm glad to provide the opportunity for you. Feels good, doesn't it, spewing the truth? The truth is like a great fuck. It's one of the few remaining reasons to get out of bed in the morning. It's not for everybody. Some people are so crippled they can't stand the truth. But for those of us who partake, nothing else really comes close. But you know what? All those other people who can't stand the truth, they're going to be a problem for you. This is why. You're a fucking nobody. Who are your parents? Nobody. Who are your connections? Nobody. Where'd you go to school? It isn't Harvard, Princeton, or Yale, so wherever you went, it doesn't matter. You're no Douglas, Martin. You're a talented nobody. Everybody's going to hate you. I mean, you get this published, it will get some attention, but not what it should, and then you'll write a second novel which will mess up your brain like nothing you've ever lived through. It will be the worst 3 years of your life writing that second novel. You'll feel like you're in the ninth circle of hell, where the betrayers of Christ are frozen in internal cannibalistic silence. Only it's not flesh you'll be consuming, it's your mind. Maybe a few years after the second novel, you'll be onto something with your third, and you'll finally get into one of the big writers' colonies. But your bitterness at having been rejected 15 fucking times will take a lot of the fun out of that. You'll start to hate everyone out there who's more successful than you. What you feel for Douglas right now is nothing compared to what's coming. But the work will be good. Everyone keep telling you how good the writing is. It's too good to be mistaken, and that will become the bane of your existence. You might or might not get nominated for an occasional award, but you'll never make any money. Hollywood will start to look like something pretty good right about then, but you won't feel like sucking up to them either, so you'll waste months of your life wandering in that hellhole of a city, wondering why so many hacks can make a go of it out there, but you can't get arrested. You'll end up taking a university job so you can pay off your credit cards, which you ran up like some fucking woman all those years. You let yourself get sucked into the writing, and then you'll be really screwed. When you're teaching, and you'll get so sick of how stifling and boring and utterly pointless it all is, teaching writing to a bunch of hyper-privileged, droning children. You'll start drinking even more than you already are. You'll start fucking your students, even the freshmen, especially the freshmen. They're the ones who haven't been ruined yet, and they'll be so in love with your genius, their adoration will be like a drug. And why not? Why the fuck not? The work is still great. You're a fucking artist. You have to feel something to write, something more than just bitterness and contempt for the idiots you write for. The biggest problem with being a writer, finally, is that all your readers are human beings. And the human race is... You'll get fired for fucking undergrads, which is apparently against the law now. One of those undergraduates will make a reckless, devastating claim, which too many people will want to believe by then. Things will continue to spiral. Your few remaining friends, maybe Douglas here or Kate, will lend you a hand for old time's sake. You'll let them. And then you'll take on a few editing gigs to make ends meet. And you'll be good at it, and people will like it. They turned you into a servant. That will make them all feel great. And you'll get more and more editing work, and then you'll teach private writing seminars, which will feel like shit for a while, until you realize that you really could do something. You could help the ones worth helping if you only take on the best students, and that will make it better. But you will still be a fucking servant, because at the moment in your life when someone said, you're a talented nobody, but I'm gonna help you, you said, I don't need help. Class is over. That's Leonard's big monologue. Thank you. Okay, you're very kind. The person who did it in the first production in New York was Alan Rickman. So for me, I do hear him in my head, you know. It was really quite beautiful. Anyway, so that's pretty self-explanatory, right? You guys understand like how that is in context. And also, for me, Leonard is a character who talks a lot and will say anything. And so, you know, so it was really no problem getting to say anything you wanted him to say, because he was only too happy. And it is something that is, that question of how do you get them to say or do what you want them to do is actually sort of complicated for my writing process, because I don't believe in making characters do whatever you want, they have to be kind of cooperating with you at some point, and that turned into a problem when I was working in Hollywood, because sometimes, the head of NBC would say, can da-da-da do this? And I'd be like, well, no, actually, she would never do that. And that was like enraging, that I was like, well, I could get her to do this, this, and this. And that was not a good enough answer. But I did end up feeling like, I understand that you're my boss, and that you are like running NBC, but power, just because you have power doesn't mean, power is not bigger than story. And so, I was always like trying to figure out how to give them what they wanted, but if they wanted something real dopey, I couldn't violate anyway, they fired me. Of course they did. Okay. So this is a play. These are a couple of monologues in a play that not as many people know, but I think it's one of my best plays. It's called Downstairs. Does anyone here know this play? No, great, you don't know it. It's a three-hander about, and this is what it's about. It's about Irene, who lives in this house, and her brother Teddy occasionally shows up, and he's like in between. He's kind of and he sleeps when he's in trouble, he comes and stays in her basement and sleeps on the couch down there. So the whole thing is, the play really is about, what do you do when your brother shows up and wants to sleep on your couch in the basement? And because her husband is like, he can't just stay down there and sleep on our couch. And so she has to go down and tell him that he's not allowed to stay and just sleep on her couch. And the whole play ends up being somewhat about what happens when your brother shows up and sleeps on the couch in your basement. Okay. Irene, do you know when you're leaving? Teddy, oh, you want me to? Oh. Irene, it's just this isn't a good time. Teddy, a good time for what? Irene, just in general, it's not a good time. And Teddy, because I have a lot of things I need to straighten out. Not a lot of things, a few things though. Irene, can you be more specific? Teddy, not really. Irene, because Jerry is going to want to know. Jerry's her husband. Teddy, did he say that? Did he ask you? Irene, not yet. Teddy, good. Not yet, that's good. Irene, Teddy, just some stuff is coming together. I just have to wait a few days while people make their final decisions, but it's moving in the right direction. Like, it is so inching forward, I'll grant you that. But it's totally going in the right direction. Irene, is this like a job thing? Teddy, it's a little more complicated. No, it's a job thing. It's definitely a job thing. Irene, what kind of job thing? Teddy, like a startup thing? Irene, what does that mean? Teddy, I'm still waking up. Like, I'm not even dressed yet. I'm totally happy to talk to you about this, but it's a lot there's a huge story to it. Not a huge story, but there's just lots of pieces to it. I've been working on it for a long time. I thought it was not going to happen, and maybe I stayed with it too long. I believed in the project, and I wanted to make sure I did everything I could to get it off the ground. And these people I've been working with, they were good, but it's still unclear to me how committed they were. It was like that, and I was majorly disappointed in some behavior, and I had to negotiate that and just take stock. So that's what I've been dealing with, and I needed a few days to get away from it, get totally away and clear my head, which is why, because honestly, where I was going inside myself was totally the wrong direction. The shit inside my brain was doing, the way it was attacking me, honestly, it was bad. But I'm already feeling 100% clearer and, feeling and of course, so what happens? I get an email, it's all back on. They figured a few things out and they want to move ahead. Irene, who is this? Teddy, these people I've been working with, they're good. They're okay. They're not crooks. They're good. Irene, so what's the project? Teddy, I actually don't want to talk about it. I don't want to describe it. I don't want to be specific about it because if you say it, it could get into the atmosphere and then someone else might feel it there. I hope that doesn't sound too crazy. Like you say things, how people have the same idea at the same time, and because it's floating out there. And if you say your idea, it lands in the universe and someone else can pick it up. Irene, Oh, okay. Teddy, I'm not making that up. You can say that's superstitious if you want, but it's also true. Irene, I can't tell Jerry that. If I tell him that, he's going to get upset. Teddy, I don't understand what the big deal is. Does he need? Because, this is not the Hilton down here. I mean, it's your house too, right? Isn't it even like mostly your house? I mean, it's our house. Teddy, well, that's what I mean. It's your house too, because the money, didn't you take the money and buy the house with it? Okay, this gets it's not as quite as entertaining as Teddy can be. So then things kind of go in this circular way for a while, and then at the end of the scene, Irene says, I'm not playing games with you, Teddy. It's been days. Jerry isn't happy, and I have to tell him something. If I don't tell him something, he's going to come down here. Do you understand that? He will come down here, and none of us will be happy. We will all be unhappy if Jerry comes down here. What do you want me to tell him? Teddy, I don't care what you tell him. Irene, I care what I tell him, and I don't know what to tell him. I can't tell him this. I can't tell him. She's desperate and suddenly almost panicked. She shakes her head, trying not to cry. Teddy sees her anguish and is stricken. Teddy, yeah, okay, look. The thing is, here's the thing. I'm sick. No, that's not right. I'm not sick. I mean, that's not. The thing is, I'm poisoned. My blood isn't right anymore. There's this thing that happened to me. It took a long time, years, many years, and it wasn't an accident either. It was a person, a real person who did it. I don't actually know him, but he works at my office. Not in my office, the same building though, the same company. And 15 years ago, he started to poison me. And it wasn't like, I'm not saying that he was trying to kill me, not at first. Actually, maybe he was. Anyway, the first time it happened, he stabbed me with a pen or a pencil, I think, right here in my shoulder. And it left a scar. And it hurt like shit. I mean, it hurts when someone stabs you with a pencil. I mean, so then I went to Human Services. People saw what he did. He just came up to me and stabbed me. So I was like, hey, I want to make a report about this. And they said, okay, sure. But they didn't do anything about it. And then one of the guys I worked with, he said, well, that was a mistake, reporting that. And I said, why? And he was like, that dude is connected. He's plugged into the whole system, all the way to the top. He's not going to like it. You complained like that? And I said, he stabbed me with a pencil. And I didn't even realize at the time that the pencil was poisoned. I didn't know at first because, as I said, it didn't kill me. But the mark never went away. And then a couple years later, I saw this other guy in the hall. We were just passing. And then when I got home, there was a cut right here. And it started turning colors. And then he heard a train passing, and he stopped. He saw it. Started turning colors, and then stuff like this horrible stuff started coming out of the wound. So I went to a doctor, and he said, yeah, this is bad. There's poison here. You've been attacked. But when I tried to talk to people at work about it, it was like I was the one who had made this happen. They didn't want to talk about it or hear about it even. And then it happened over and over again. I'm telling you, this has been going on for years. I have wounds everywhere. My hands shake. I can't sleep. The poison is just, I'm so toxic, you can't even touch me anymore. If you touched me, something terrible will happen to you. And no one could ever tell me why he was doing it. They just said, ignore it. You have to ignore it. But how could you ignore it? I was bleeding everywhere. And then, no one would talk to me after a while. A few people. There was one guy on the 6th floor who always went out of his way to be nice to me. But, I just got sicker and sicker. And I didn't want to quit. I liked that job. And generally, I was considered a really good employee. But my heart was infected. It didn't beat right anymore. At night, I could hear it beating too hard. I didn't quit. I mean, it's not like I've resigned or anything. I wish I could. I want to quit that job so bad. I can't tell you. But I can't get myself to do it. I'll go back, I promise. Maybe if I just have a place to hide for a little while, though. I think hiding is a good idea. That's the end of that scene. She lets him stay. The speech does its job. And then what happens after that is that Irene's kindness kind of brings Teddy out of his, I don't know what you call that. I mean, he's clearly fabulous in ways, but that's got a negative connotation now because of George Santos. But he's clearly in a metaphorical space in his head, and she brings him out of that, and then and helps him by giving him a home, a space to call home again, and then he helps her come to realize that Jerry is the problem in her life, that he's really a very dangerous man. That his "get your brother out of here" attitude is sign of deeper and deeper kind of malevolent psychosis. But then eventually, and then she has to throw Teddy out because she can't hear from him what he is coming to discover about her horrible husband. This is a really good play. I recommend that everybody read it. And then eventually, Teddy comes back. And it's after Jerry's gone. But she says, sorry. He's there for like a moment, and then he starts to leave again. And she goes, "Teddy, wait, where are you going?" "Teddy, this isn't my house." "Irene, but it's my house. It's my house now, and I get to say who stays." "Teddy, you're happy." "Irene, Teddy, sit down. Please sit down." "Teddy, I can't. I have this thing I have to." "Irene, you just got here." Teddy, "Yeah, but there's this project that I've been working on." "Okay. It was a little complicated putting it together, but it's really on all cylinders finally, and it would be just the wrong thing to walk away from it. Talking about it in the specific is not going to help you understand it. You just have to trust me. It's pretty big." "Irene, you have to at least stay for dinner." Teddy, "Yeah, but food is not. There's a danger. Food is so toxic. It's totally toxic now. And I've had these experiences, I told you about them, where I already have a lot of poison that my system has to negotiate. There's a lot of negotiating happening already. And it's going to be fine. You don't need to worry or anything, but I just have to be, cautious." Irene, "Oh, Teddy, yeah." Irene, where are you? Are you living someplace now?" He kind of looks a mess. Teddy, "Obviously, you don't just evaporate just because someone says you're not real." Irene, "I didn't mean that." Teddy, "I'm aware." "Oh, no worries. I didn't take that seriously. And in fact, I understand why you said it, because the question of what real is, you know what else? Jerry was not wrong about everything. There are too many people, and reality just can't. I'm talking about a kind of, in your heart or other places in your body, where are you? What is it that makes you a person? People don't think about, this is hard to explain, but the world is so watery. Not watery, it's plain. It's plainer than we think. When you're talking to people, not anywhere, but pretty much anywhere, there's no way to be inside. I mean, that's obvious. But when cement, there's this thing that happens when you're standing on cement, like your foot becomes part of your brain. And it's not that you need a house. I wouldn't say that. But without the space inside the house, not that, because space is the same everywhere. It's all the same space. It's just this other thing that's inside the space. All right. Teddy, I thought you were an angel when we were little. I thought you were an angel. Irene, I'm not an angel. Teddy, I know. Oh, God, of course I know that. I was just remembering. I'm not real. You were right. It gets a little better after that. There's resurrection a bit. But I liked living with Teddy for a long time. And quite frankly, everybody told me that Teddy was like on the spectrum, he had blah, 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 and I thought, no, Teddy is kind of my internal monologue. I was like, if Teddy's crazy, then what am I? So I don't think Teddy's crazy. I think he's hypersensitive and a bit of a lost soul. And it was exciting to work with someone who would say stuff like this, and then rise and fall with it. You know, like part of the terror of the play, the more I worked on it, was that Teddy was kind of rising out of that very metaphoric incoherence, you know, where he could only speak his internal life, and coming more to a place with Irene where they were kind of on the same plane, and it was memory that brought them together, because they got into working through their memories of their childhood. And then when Jerry realized that Irene was gathering strength from having her brother there, it wasn't just the annoyance of what's your fucking brother doing in the basement. It was the fact that she was becoming more whole that kind of really got him into a more violent state of mind and needing Teddy to go. And so that when he comes back, that he's fallen back into the place he was at the beginning of the play, and then even further lost. I mean, I do think he's homeless at that point. You know, the thing about your foot being part of the cement and part of your brain at the same time feels like something a homeless person would have to contend with. So, what time is it? How much more time do I have? It's 8:40? 820. And so give that, oh wait, sorry. And yeah, I heard you, I understand 820. And that gives me how much more time? How many? 10, 15? Because I could do one more from the scene. Do you guys know the scene? I love the scene. Okay, so I'll do a little more and then I can take some questions. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, this is the beginning of the scene. This is a play. So, like today I spent some of my time where people going, where do your ideas come from? And I went through a long, complicated explanation of where the idea for this play came from. And the first scene is like, it takes place at a party that I actually went to with my husbando. And these are the characters: Charlie, Lewis, and Clea. A corner of a party, loud music, talk, laughter. Charlie and Lewis hold drinks in their hands. Lewis is clearly interested in Clea. Charlie is not. Clea. I love the view here. Lewis, awesome. He's checking out her butt. Clea, I mean, mind-blowing, right? It's just so surreal. The lights and the water, it's like unbelievable. I love this loft. Do you know the guy who lives here? He must be incredible, because I have just no idea. I came with a friend who knows like everybody, and I know she told me it was somebody in the fashion industry who I just had never heard of. My bad, because he's like, what? Like clearly so talented. This place is so beautiful. The air and the water, it's just so surreal. Charlie, how is that surreal? Clea, what? Charlie, the air and the water. You said that before. You found it surreal. How are air and water surreal? Clea, oh, you know, it's just, wow, you know. Charlie, you want a refill? What is that, a mojito? He's saying that to Lewis. Lewis, yeah, great. Charlie, how about you? I'm sorry, what's your name again? Clea. Clea, would you like a mojito, Clea? No, I don't drink. My mother was an alcoholic. I mean, she was a wonderful woman, and she really loved me, but it's like alcohol is so deadly. I mean, at these parties, sometimes when I'm at a party like this, to stand around and watch everyone turn into zombies around me, it's just really triggers me, you know? You go ahead. I mean, that's just for me. I don't impose that on people or anything. Lewis, I mean, it's not like, I'm not like a huge drinker or anything. Clea, oh, good, because, you know, I was at this party last week. It was such a scene. There were so many people there. You know, it was like this young director. He's got like 7 things going on at once off Broadway. Can you imagine the energy level of someone like that? Anyway, it was his birthday party, and they rented out the top 2 floors of this loft in Chelsea. It was like wild party, like surreal. And then at one point in the evening, I just realized that everyone was just shit-faced. I mean, I don't want to be reactive in situations like that. I don't like to judge people on a really superficial level or anything, but it was kind of horrifying. I mean, not that I, you know, drink. You should drink. Enjoy yourselves. Charlie, yeah, well, I think I'm going to head out. Nice to meet you, Clea. Clea. Oh, whoa. I mean, what does that mean? Charlie, what does what mean? Clea. I mean, whoa. Charlie, is there a problem? Clea, you tell me. You're the one who's all like, Clea, nice to meet you. Charlie, what are you even talking about? Clea, nothing. It just struck me as a little edgy, that's all. Lewis, you want me to go get those drinks? Why don't I do that? I mean, you got to at least talk to Nick. He's going to show up. Charlie, I'm not talking to Nick. I'm leaving. Nice to meet you is edgy? Clea, well, you're totally giving off a vibe here. I'm not making that up. And that is so fine. I mean, I do not judge. Lewis, look, Nick's here. Hey, Nick. Charlie, I'm not talking to a vibe. Wait a minute. Oh, vibe is like a totally uncool world in your little tribe? Hey, Nick. No, it's got a real 70s charm that I find particularly captivating in someone who wasn't born until 1982. Clea, oh, I'm young. Well, I guess you're not, huh? That's really the problem, isn't it? Okay, that's enough of that. That's just an introduction. Then Cleo's on, this is where the monologue part of the story shows up. Clea is on a date, like Lewis has invited her over to his apartment because he wants to get laid, and she's very beautiful, even though she's an idiot. And so she comes over to his house, and there's a scene between the two of them that's like really the worst date you've ever heard of. But then in the middle of it, Charlie barges in, and he sort of just barges in. Lewis. Charlie, I saw that shithead Nick. I went and had fucking lunch with that fucking shithead. He sees Clea. Hi. Clea goes, hi. Charlie's like, oh, hi. Lewis, Clea just came over for and indicates that he'd like Charlie to leave, but Charlie ignores him. That fuckhead. I said, did I not say he is a fuckhead? I told her, he's talking about his wife. I told her that this would be a waste of my fucking time. I told everyone. Did I not? What is this, vodka? He picks it up and uncorks it, then proceeds to drink from the bottle. Because he is a fuck. You know this to be true. I mean, in high school, he was a fuck, and in college, he was a fuck. And time is not a friend to people like that. I mean, it's not like they mellow. It's not like they ripen like a good bottle of wine. No. Nick is still Nick, only more so. And now, someone has actually told him that they are going to make his fucking pilot, which was just what Nick needed to really put the final touches on his complete lack of character. Give him a shred of power over hopeless and desperate people. That'll really make him shine. Not that I even believe it. I don't give a shit how many people say it. I do not believe that they're going to make his fucking pilot, which, by the way, he gave to me to read. So on the sidewalk, outside the restaurant, after our cappuccinos, he took off. And I opened it up, and I read it, and I'm sure you'll be stunned to hear that it is utter mindless, soulless, uninspired, unoriginal, bereft, soul-sucking crap, which is the only thing that makes me think he might actually be telling the truth. The fact that his fucking pilot is so irredeemably awful, such a complete expression of the bankruptcy of the American character, that alone argues for the shred of a possibility that he is flirting with the truth for once in his life with his assertion that they are going to make his astonishingly shitty pilot. It's so bad, there's actually a possibility that they're going to make it. Against my better judgment, I truly have to concede that. Clea says, wow. And Charlie goes, oh, you have no idea. This is the tip of the iceberg. This day I actually had lunch with that asshole at a place called Grind. Next thing you know, they're going to be calling restaurants things like hot, wet, fuck me. Someday we're all going to be forced to have lunch with assholes at some restaurant called Fuck Me. Nick, of course, is on his cell phone for a full 5 minutes before he can even say hello. 5 minutes of the finger in the air twitching. While I sit there grinning like a schmuck, it's okay, man. I know you got to hang on this endless phone call because you're so fucking important. You're a completely essential piece of the whole mind-numbing motor that keeps capitalism itself running. You're the guy, and I'm just some stupid shithead who needs to lick your ass Lewis goes, hey, Charlie, come on, I'm not making this up. I'm not even exaggerating. It was like a scene out of some bad 19th century novel, or a good one even, War and Peace. He's Prince somebody, and I'm the bastard son of somebody else. Who remembers, except for the licking of the ass part. So, except if we were in Russia in the 19th century, there would be a form for it all, a ritual, a way to keep your dignity while you said, please, your highness, save my fucking worthless piece of shit self. Give me some money. I'm fucking broke. I'm not a man. Give me some money. And if you do, I will go to Siberia for you. I will face Bonaparte with my bare hands. I will fling myself into the abyss. Just give me some fucking money so that I don't have to. Oh, plus he's thin. Did I tell you this? You remember Nick? He was just like a normal guy, right? Aside from being a fuck. He's lost like 40 pounds. And I mean, he was normal before. It wasn't like he was fat. He was just normal. So now he's like, it's like his face. It's just sitting right on his skull. You're like talking to a really skinny skull version of who Nick used to be. And he's dressed all in black, this bizarre black suit with a black silk t-shirt under it. So he actually does look like one of those freaks from a vampire movie. Do they honestly think that looks good in Hollywood? They must. I don't know. So then he orders like a huge slab of red meat because that's all he can eat apparently. That's how he got so thin. By eating only raw meat. I swear to you, I am not making one word of this up. And I'm just trying to stay focused on the sucking up end of the conversation. Trying not to say anything truthful, just stay in the conversation, let him know that I'm a total failure of a human being, but I also know and appreciate the fact that he is not. Lewis, Charlie, oh, stop it, don't even. This is completely what those conversations are about. This is what they are about. And I'm doing it, man. I'm absolutely humiliating myself so that I can get Nick to give me an audition for a teeny tiny part in a pilot I don't even believe exists. When he looks at my plate and says, I could never eat that. That's just too rich. I mean, he's got a slab of red meat the size of Nebraska sitting on his plate, and I've got a plate of mushroom puree sitting in front of me. Mushroom puree with about 5 or 6 itty-bitty scallops on top of it. I got so fucking self-conscious about how fucking thin he was that I'd ordered a completely girly meal, scallops and mushroom puree, just so I wouldn't have to think about that crap while I castrated myself for this skull person. And then sorry, forget about it. I don't even know what I'm saying. That's the end of that monologue. Yeah, that's the end of me. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
What advice would you give to young writers?
Write what you feel. Write your truth. You know, somebody today, it was really interesting. I had a very smart question from a student today where he said, how do you stand out from there's a lot of writers out there. How do you make yourself seen? And I really thought about that because I was like, oh, how do you do that? How do you know? And then eventually I got around to, oh yeah, do what you do and just do that. Because if you start to try and do something else, it usually kind of collapses. And that, sort of leaning on your authentic voice is a better choice. Yeah.
Hi. I'm really appreciative of how you talk about your characters, like you're talking about working with them, and I'm wondering how do you meet your characters? How do you come to know them in the way that you so obviously do?
There are two ways of working as a playwright or a screenwriter, and one is from the inside out, and the other one is from the outside in. And for me, working from the inside out is the way to. It gives a richer sound to your character work, and when it's become important to me over time to just really listen to. And I think that people like Tennessee Williams did this. And the great American authors, Arthur Miller, I believe, mostly did this. O'Neill clearly did this, because, for me, what you have to do is really kind of start to hear them in your head, and then, like, when you write down 10 to 15 pages, by the end of that period, maybe up to 20, they should be starting to do things on their own, so that when you're sitting there, you go, oh, like sort of really funny shit occurs, and you haven't thought it out ahead of time, and then they release, and all you have to do really is kind of let it rip, but you have to be careful not to force them to do anything that they don't want to do. One of the things that I have done at times, if they're not, I'm like going, why aren't you guys talking? Do you know? I sit there and I think, why aren't they saying anything? And so sometimes I get them a little drunk. Like, that's one way to, to hand them some vodka or whatever. Like, Charlie's drinking in this thing, and it becomes the fuel of the opening of their character. So does that answer your question? Right. Anybody else?
Hi, dear. I think it's Rebeck from here.
Okay.
Do you find it very freeing to write those, like, ranty monologues? Because, frankly, I feel like that would be a very good place to, like, release some emotions.
I love it. I do. It's so relaxing. That's why I thought, well, what should I do today? And I just went, monologues are, like I said, there's this kind of meeting of character and the pressure of circumstances. And so, obviously one of the things I found interesting looking through these old monologues is how often the question of reality comes up for my characters on a very personal level. And because I had this kind of shocking moment when I finally got a job in TV, and I was out in LA. My husband had stayed in New York because he was working on a show. He was a stage manager at the time. And so I was out there by myself when they finally put one of my episodes on television. And I was sitting in this apartment by myself, watching my name on TV. I watched the episode, and then at the beginning of it, it said written by Theresa Rebeck. And I was like, wow. I thought it made me look real in a way. And I was like, and this isn't real. Some of the stuff you write in television is like the opposite of real. And I thought, why is it that television makes us look more real when it's actually less real than like us sitting in this room together? And so that's something that comes up to me, for me a lot, because I feel like, it's something about how we exist, how we claim our space on this planet. That's reality becomes like a metaphor for me. Like, there's one thing that Charlie talks about at the end of the scene that was something that came to me. There was one point when I was walking around Times Square, and there was this huge poster of, a television show. And I knew a couple of the people in the television show, and they looked like gods, like they were like 8 stories high. And I thought, I'm here, they're up there, they are real in a way that I am not real to this culture. And these are people I knew and like had worked with. And so I gave that to Charlie, that moment of feeling like there's something about the corporate media and the way it promotes storytelling in America that crushes, or anything that crushes us in our lives. Sometimes I worry that maybe is what happened to too many people, is that they felt like they didn't exist compared to people on TV or people on giant billboards. But we're real, and the billboards are not. So the monologues seem real to me. Like, it's an expression of a self that seems passionate and like a fight for existence. Mm. Thank you.